Good morning to you folks. JB here with you live after a good night's sleep and probably the last good night's sleep that we're going to have here at WFLA for some time. So good morning, wherever you're watching from. JB here with you live in the WFLA Now Stream Center. We are preparing for a very busy day of streaming, and we are here to answer your questions and be a resource for you across all of our platforms. WFLA's app, WFLA.com, trackingthetropics.tv, YouTube Live. Can everybody hear me out there? Good morning. Saying hello to Brad, saying hello to Nate, saying hello to Father Finger. That's an interesting name. We've had some interesting names on YouTube Live. Saying hi to Christy. I just want to take a moment just to say hello to those of you who are on YouTube Live who have been waiting for our streaming coverage to resume. I see Stacy says #HeyJB. It's looking like Hurricane Charlie, and boy, is it looking like Hurricane Charlie. Look at these spaghetti models and look at the latest track update as of 5 a.m. Significantly ominous, of course, for the Tampa Bay area. And look, we're probably talking about an eventual. We've had so many wobbles now to the east as far as this track. I think it's inevitable that we get a shift to the west. But if this continues to hook, we're talking about significant impacts for our neighbors to the south, even more significant impacts. I'm talking about Sarasota. I'm talking about Naples. I'm talking about Fort Myers. So we've got a lot to break down. But before I do so, I've been having some conversations with our hardworking team here at WFLA. And I have something to ask of our audience this morning. And I never ask our audience for anything. I'm always here just to inform you. But there is something that our audience can really help us out with. And it involves the fact that we are trying to get out information to as many different places as possible. I hope everybody hears it in my voice when I say that I mean this with as much sincerity as possible, that what we try to do with storm coverage, we're trying to help people. We're live on YouTube and we're live on Facebook to answer your questions and to give you words of comfort and to also give you words of warning when we're talking about a system of this magnitude, a storm of this magnitude. But a lot of people over the last several years, what they have done is they have deleted Facebook from their phones. Facebook has become, for a lot of folks, just a little bit too politicized of a platform. You know this, I know this. Some people don't really check YouTube all that often. We have, of course, a loyal YouTube following, but not everybody is on YouTube. A lot of people have gravitated towards TikTok. And I think it's extraordinarily important for the sizable audience there on TikTok to be able to get this information. We have the most advanced weather radar in Florida. And that radar, Max Defender 8, is going to be so important to getting really crucial, potentially life-saving information out to people. And it's important to me. It's important to me. It's important to us, but it's really important to me that we get out this information to platforms that are more new, like TikTok. And TikTok's not new, but it's not necessarily, it's more of a alternative platform as far as content and not something that we normally would traditionally look to in the past as far as getting out, weather models and weather data and forecast tracks. So I ask of you, YouTube Live, this morning, specifically for this. I'm asking for a follow on TikTok. And the reason is because I need a certain number of TikTok followers to be able to go live. TikTok will not let me go live. I understand why they do it. It's because they don't want everybody going live on the platform. But all I want to do is be able to take our weather graphics and take our Tracking the Tropics signal and go live on TikTok. And I can't do that until I have 1,000 followers, apparently. That's what I've been told, is that I can't go live on TikTok unless I have 1,000 followers. Right now, I have a counter somewhere over here that says that I have 500 TikTok followers. I'm not really on TikTok. I'm more focused on the platforms where we can interact with you live. Not to say that we can't on TikTok. It's just more of a priority for us on Facebook or YouTube Live. So I know that not everybody, I see your comments, folks. I see it. I'm not really all that much on TikTok either. It's not really my platform of choice, but it doesn't mean that the people on there don't deserve storm coverage, that they shouldn't have the coverage from our team, and of course, Max Defender 8 radar, which is going to be really important. That's what was communicated to me a short time ago. Max Defender 8 radar is going to be so crucially important to tracking the system as it gets closer to Tampa Bay. When it becomes within range of our radar, we have potentially life-saving information. So I'm at WFLA-JB on TikTok. And I'm hoping that I cross over, hopefully, that we cross over the 1,000 follower threshold at some point this morning, and we can attempt to take our signal on TikTok for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because these are going to be very, very important days. So hopefully we can make that happen, and hopefully YouTube Live, you can help me out. I don't want to be famous. I don't need a gajillion TikTok followers. Believe me, if I wanted that, I'd be dancing in the studio and doing your favorite TikTok, whatever the TikTok craze of the week is. That's just not my MO. I'm about helping people. I want to help people. And if I have to get to 1,000 followers on TikTok to do it, then so be it. I'm going to ask for some help from our fans here on YouTube Live. So big thanks, everybody. If you do take the time to just hop over to a different platform and follow me, I'll put it here in the YouTube Live comment section. TikTok at WFLA-JB. That'll help us out. And hopefully when I cross over the 1,000 viewer threshold, I'll get that live symbol and we can go live with our signal here and get out this information. Okay, let's just quickly talk. We're still preparing our coverage, and our coverage is going to come together once the entire team arrives. Let me explain how this works behind the scenes as far as the TV industry and the meteorology industry, as far as our meteorologists here at WFLA. We're smart enough to know that this was probably the last time we were going to get 8 hours of sleep. This past night, this Monday night, that was probably it. As far as Tuesday into Wednesday into Thursday and into Friday, we're talking about this storm and its impacts in Florida. And then Saturday and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and probably into next week, we're talking about impacts and power outages and storm surge and flooding and impassable roads and additional cancellations and closures and just a general overall adverse impact on your everyday life in more ways than we can probably count. So this was the last opportunity for us to be able to really get some healthy rest. And I hope that everybody out there is patient with us, because we would have liked to have started earlier this morning. And in fact, I would have loved to have been live with you for the 5 a.m. track update, which was significant if you were following the 5 a.m. track update. It's here on the right side of your screen. Max winds of 125 miles per hour. Look at this track now. Look at that 3 right over Tampa. It doesn't look to be as slow of a moving system as it was in the last update, but it's considerably strong as it makes landfall potentially as a major hurricane. We were talking about it yesterday with meteorologist Eric Stone about how there's this wind shear point where if the storm continues up to that point, it will weaken, but it looks like it's curving just beneath that wind shear to where it potentially will make landfall as a major hurricane. We keep getting bad news with this storm and with the models, and it's troubling. But this is, look, this is the reality that we live in, and we're following the models, we're following science, we're following exactly what the National Hurricane Center is telling us with the data that we are receiving. So the Max Defender 8 weather team, our meteorologists are going to be live with us all throughout the day here on Tracking the Tropics as we just try to keep you safe and we try to give you good information. And we're going to also be addressing your questions and your comments live with our hashtag system, and hopefully we can just make sure that you feel like you're not alone out there. I think that's a big thing, and I hopefully by now families and friends have kind of come together. I just came in, I saw people at the gas station over there by the interstate. I-275 was crazy. Everyone's getting gas, everyone's getting supplies. This was kind of the very, very last morning where you'll be able to really get supplies without it storming out there considerably. And so Tampa is bracing. Everyone knows it. The entire city knows it. The entire region knows it. Hurricane Ian is coming, and there's nothing that we can do, of course, to stop it. But we can stay aware, we can stay prepared, and you can stay with us as we answer your questions live over the coming hours. So yes, let's hop over to just really quickly, just to TikTok, and I'll just kind of take a look, and hopefully we made a dent in getting to this. And then once we do, I'm going to hop over to talk to our team about getting over there. Okay, so I have picked up another. So here it is, folks. Let me see that. I have 662 followers. So I think we started with 500, and now I'm at 662. We are still 340 or so away from me being able to take our Track in the Tropics signal and go live on Facebook. So again, if you're just joining us, I can't go live on TikTok. TikTok, help me out here, please. Anybody in our comment section know anybody over at TikTok? Help me out. They look, there are, and let's be honest, it's a sizable age difference. The TikTok audience trends significantly younger, and they also need to be aware of what's happening with Hurricane Ian. Not to say that there isn't some very talented meteorologists and weather personnel that are, making sure that TikTok is covered. We get that. There are people that are live on TikTok right now probably talking about Hurricane Ian, but we happen to have the most advanced weather WFLA has the most advanced weather radar in the state, located right here in Tampa Bay. And when this storm gets in our range, it is going to provide potentially life-saving information to people. So being able to access as many platforms as possible is so important. And I'm thinking about the younger audience on TikTok and the not so younger. I know I have family members that are significantly older than I am that are on TikTok, that have found TikTok over the last few months, last couple of years. So just trying to get to as many people on TikTok as possible, and hopefully we can share out that information as well. I'll keep an eye on the count here, guys. It would really help us out a lot, because again, we're just trying to help people. I'll put it in the comment section again. People are still asking for it. TikTok at WFLA-JB. There's also the WFLA Facebook TikTok page, but there's a whole long story as to why we're having difficulty with that page as well. All right, I'm not here to just beg for TikTok followers so that we can go live on that platform. I'm here to also answer your questions. What questions do you have this morning? Nicole, I see your comment. Thank you for giving us all the information and being trustworthy. Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. In addition to, of course, asking for folks to help out with follows, I'm also going to answer some questions. Let's go through them as rapid fire as possible before we start to really ramp up our coverage plan in the coming hours. Ian, all right, interestingly, his name is Ian, hashtag HJB. Thoughts on the new models? Do you think it moves farther east? There's no doubt. And here's a big thing to note. Everybody, look at the spaghetti models with the consensus and look at how narrow the forecast cone has become. This denotes high confidence in these models for Ian to go basically right into Tampa Bay. Look at it. Look at the forecast cone. Look at the consensus that there is. And it does widen out at the point where landfall could be, because again, there's still potential. There's still panhandle potential as far as a potential landfall, but most of the models have this making this east turn and continuing this trend, this diagonal trend northeast, right into Tampa Bay. And right now, that eye is, we were talking about it yesterday. What happens if the eye goes right into Tampa Bay? Yeah, that's going to be, if that situation occurs, we're talking about a historical storm. We're already talking about a historical storm, but a Category 3 hurricane at this angle going right into Tampa Bay, it's like trying to hit, I mean, there's so many different places where a storm can make landfall. It's like taking a dart from, 100 feet out and hitting a bullseye as far as the worst case scenario for Tampa Bay. Now, look, it's going to wobble. There's going to be east and west movement with the track and with the storm itself. And there's a ton of different scenarios at play where Tampa Bay itself isn't directly hit. But if somehow this track stays true and a Category 3 system quite literally enters Tampa Bay like a cruise ship, I'll tell you what, we have a signal. I'll bring it up. We have a signal from so we're here in downtown Tampa at WFLA, and we have a tower cam. I want to show it to you. And this shot is going to tell us if this storm, when it does enter Tampa Bay, if it doesn't enter Tampa Bay, it's going to look, this is from our tower cam, it's going to look scary. This is, we're going to be taking different live feeds from all around the Tampa Bay area to show you what it looks like in a Category 3 storm. This just happens to be from our tower cam right now, live. And obviously, we're getting some cloud cover from the very, very far extremities of those outer bands reaching the Tampa Bay area. However, what this shot is going to look like 24 hours from now is drastically different. Let's get to Governor DeSantis is speaking. He is. Let's go over to Governor DeSantis live, folks, on WFLA Now, and we'll check back with you here in a little bit. Stand by, folks. This is Governor DeSantis speaking at the EOC in Tallahassee.
Counties, there's evacuation orders that are in place on all these counties from Pasco and Pinellas down to the Fort Myers area. And our recommendation is to heed those evacuation orders. What those evacuation orders are doing is identifying people that live in areas that are vulnerable to major storm surge. And that storm surge can be life-threatening. There's certain things we can protect against in terms of the wind and the structures, and we've got great building codes. But when you have 5 to 10 feet of storm surge, that is not something that you want to be a part of. And Mother Nature is a very fearsome adversary. So please heed those warnings. You do not need to evacuate to another state. You don't need to go hundreds of miles away. There's shelters that are open in all of these counties at this point. The important part of if you're under an evacuation order is evacuate to higher ground that is going to be safe from the type of surge and flooding that we're fearing with this storm. Of course, there's certain Floridians that may live in mobile homes or manufactured housing that would be vulnerable. If you're under an order, of course, you want to be in a structure that is going to be able to withstand some of the hurricane winds. But by and large, we're looking at really major storm surge up and down the west coast of Florida. There are people that, of course, are evacuating on different roadways. There has been traffic, but there has not yet been the backups where FDOT and FHP have opened the emergency shoulder lanes. They will do that once sustained speeds are at 40 miles per hour or less. And so when that happens, they will make that call. People will be able to use those, but don't use it until then, because that obviously, carries some risk if people, don't know that that's something that is going on. You also can use things like Gas Buddy to find gas stations in the area that have fuel. And I would note, if you look at these updated tracks that we've been getting this morning, and I think you'll probably see that reflected in the 11 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, you have potential paths of the storm entering Florida's Gulf Coast, cutting across the state and exiting into the Atlantic Ocean. That means some of those counties that are more interior, you could absolutely see power outages. You could see inland flooding. You could see various types of tree and damage from wind. So just be prepared for that. We were here 48 hours ago, and most of the solutions had it going up the coast, the west coast of Florida. Well, now most of them have it ramming into the state of Florida and cutting across. And so just be prepared for that and understand that that's something that could be happening. Visit Florida has partnered with Expedia to launch an emergency accommodations page. Anyone who has been ordered to evacuate can use this page to find available accommodations in other areas of the state by visiting expedia.com/Florida. Again, expedia.com/Florida. We have about 2.5 million Floridians that are currently under some type of an evacuation order. Make sure you know your evacuation zones, so you can find that at floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare. floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare. And of course, if you are called upon to evacuate, make sure you take care of your pets. Don't leave your pets behind when you're evacuating. There's pet-friendly shelters. There's things that can be done to take care of pets. We want to make sure. So there is information about planning for your pet at floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our friends. To find shelters, again, visit floridadisaster.org/shelters. floridadisaster.org/shelters. Most of these counties are going to have shelters within the county that are in higher ground. The buildings are going to be hurricane proof. They're going to be able to withstand a Category 3 hurricane in terms of the winds, but it's going to put you in a situation where you're not going to be vulnerable to the effects of the storm surge and the effects of the flooding. We have, of course, suspended tolls starting yesterday to assist people who may be moving around the state and following evacuation orders. You can look at those facilities at fdot.gov that list them. We may add more if there's a need to do that as the storm impacts other parts of the state, and we will make that announcement at the appropriate time. We have 26 school districts that have announced school closures, and you may very well have more as the track becomes more certain. If you want the most updated school information, go to fldoe.org/storminfo, fldoe.org/storminfo. We have 5,000 National Guardsmen that are activated. We've got 2,000 additional Guardsmen from other states, and I know Jim's been talking with other states, to help us with even more assets. We do have our urban search and rescue teams activated. We have 3 additional teams on standby ready to deploy. Our FWC has officers placed in every county in anticipation of heavy rains and flooding. And you will see heavy rains in parts of the state that are not necessarily on Florida's Gulf Coast. We also have high water vehicles and shallow draft boats that are ready for immediate deployment to the affected areas. We also have FWC's aviation section placed on standby, and it's ready. All appropriate aircraft are ready for deployment for search and rescue and post-storm damage assessments as needed. FHP has implemented their 12-hour shifts. They've mobilized additional state troopers to the Gulf Coast. And of course, our partners in the U.S. Coast Guard are standing by and are able and willing to assist. We do report today 100% of operating long-term care facilities do have a generator on site. Of course, we have a state of emergency for all 67 counties. We are going to keep that in place. I think if you look at the tracks that have come out this morning, the chance that you have major impacts in Northwest Florida, of course, have declined. But we also understand there's going to be people that are going to be evacuating, and we want to give every county flexibility to help their fellow Floridians. We have issued the waivers of weights for commercial trucks. We want the fuel and the resources continuing to come into the state. We've spoken with our partners there. They're going to keep doing it until it's no longer safe to do so, because they understand how important it is. We do have emergency refills of maintenance prescriptions. Those are authorized for another 30 days. And we now have 28,000 across the state between our investor-owned utilities, our municipal utilities, and our rural electric co-ops. More than 28,000 linemen are staged for power restorations across the state of Florida. And we understand as the storm hits and passes, the need to be able to restore power as soon as possible for as many Floridians as possible. Make sure you're executing your plan. This is imminent. We appreciate everybody in our counties who've worked very hard to execute their plans. Kevin will talk a little bit more about from the DEM perspective, but we've had about 500 requests for assistance from our counties. The state has fulfilled 466. Some others are on the way, and some will be fulfilled. They just can't be fulfilled until the storm actually hits. We mentioned sending medical professionals to Hillsborough County Special Needs Shelters. We sent another 120 to surrounding counties. We do have our logistical staging area in Polk County, and we will have additional staging later today. 300 ambulances supporting special needs evacuations have been deployed. Hundreds of generators and pumps have been staged, primarily in the Tampa area. And of course, pre-landfall food and water has been staged for Tampa Bay region. Now, as the track has moved a little bit more to where you have potentially greater impacts in Southwest Florida. I mean, we knew you were going to get storm surge all along. I mean, it's just the nature of a storm this big. However, Kevin is going to be mobilizing more resources to be able to assist those counties in the southwest portion of the state of Florida. Again, go to floridadisaster.org/get-a-plan to make sure that you have what you need. You know, you still have time today to execute what you need to do. If you're in an evacuation zone, you have time to be able to heed those orders. If you're not, you have time to be able to get whatever supplies that you may need to deal with what's going to happen over the next few days. I would just tell all Floridians who are in the path of this, you know, there's going to be interruptions in things like power. There's going to be interruptions in fuel, maybe interruptions in communications. That is to be expected, so just plan for that. And of course, all these resources are mobilized to try to restore the services as quickly as possible once it's safe to do so. Safety is paramount. When you're talking about storm surge like this, when you're talking about historic flooding, that water is a very, very difficult adversary. You do not want to put yourself in harm's way unnecessarily. So if you're ordered to evacuate, that's a decision based off what we're seeing with this storm, what your local officials are seeing with the storm, and the potential impacts that could have on your part of the state of Florida. And doesn't mean you need to go all across God's creation to evacuate. Just get to the higher ground, get into a safe structure. We have shelters open in all those counties now at the county level, and we would encourage people to do that. Once the storm passes, you could be able to get back in your home. We'll be able to assess whatever damage may have occurred and be able to make the necessary improvements and rebuild. But we can't unring the bell if you stay and you end up getting washed away with a historic storm surge or get caught in really, really significant flooding. So Kevin Guthrie is going to say a few words, and then we're also going to have Jared Perdue from FDOT give an update on the traffic situation.
Thank you, Governor, and good morning. I'm going to start with a bullet point that I actually don't have because it was just sent to me, but the National Hurricane Center is now predicting that landfall will be Venice in 35 hours at 125 miles an hour. So again, Venice in 35 hours at 125 miles an hour, making that a major Category 3 landfalling hurricane. We currently have more, as the Governor mentioned, we currently have more than 500 active mission requests from our local partners, and we are working diligently to ensure that all the needs are met. The Governor already mentioned that we are starting to move additional contract staff and additional resources into the Southwest Florida area. We do have the 5 urban search and rescue teams that are on standby, and we are moving those again around the state of Florida. I think it's very important to say that Tampa Bay region, you are not out of the woods yet. There is still going to be a storm surge event in the Tampa Bay region. We're waiting on that data to come in to see what those actual numbers are going to be, but you need to continue to heed the warnings that are in place for Pinellas, Tampa, Manatee, Hillsborough. Do not return yet if you have evacuated. Residents can expect power due to anticipated impacts from the storm statewide. We do have telephone companies on standby. We have the big 3 wireless companies here in our EOC with us. Floridians should be prepared and have a communications plan in place with their families on how they plan to communicate after the fact. During previous hurricanes, the cell towers did go down. We expect them to go down in this particular event. Residents should have alternate ways to communicate with friends, loved ones, and family. It's also important to remember when an evacuation order is issued, you may only need to evacuate tens of miles, as the Governor has mentioned already, instead of hundreds of miles. Many people in the Southwest Florida area, your best bet is going to be evacuate across the state. Just go straight across the state to Broward, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach. Do not try to go north. That will certainly help the Secretary from DOT to help manage that traffic. Do not go north. Go straight across over to Southeast Florida. Residents should take the time now to determine if they live in an evacuation zone. Again, that is available at floridadisaster.org/KNOW or /plan prepare, as the governor has already mentioned. I want to take a moment we've had some calls come into our call-in center. It is not the FEMA flood site. These are evacuation zones on floridadisaster.org. They are not one and the same. We had a lady call in this morning saying, well, it says I live in a zone X. That is a FEMA flood map. That is not a storm surge zone, evacuation zone. So please know the difference between the two. Keep gas and battery tanks at least half full throughout the entire season, especially in this event. That'll cut down on lines at gas stations. If you live in an evacuation zone and you decide to shelter in place, make sure you have enough supplies to weather the storm. We may be without power 3, 5, 7 days or more, depending on the situation. You'll want to make sure that you have extra cash in case in case credit card services are unavailable after the storm. Another major threat with Hurricane Ian is going to be damaging winds. So if you can pick it up, put it up. Again, if you can pick it up from your yard, put it up. Secure those loose items in your yard. Take the time to clear all that potential debris. Bring in furniture. Strong winds can pick those items up and crash them into your home or your neighbor's home. For more updates in your area, remember to follow your local county emergency management activity. That will be the best source of information at the local level on your evacuations. The division has activated the State Assistance Information Line, the cell line, to provide additional resources for Floridians to receive up-to-the-date information regarding Hurricane Ian via phone. Residents and visitors can call this toll-free line at 1-800-342-3557. I'll repeat that number. It is 1-800-342-3557. You can also follow the division on Facebook and Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at FLSERT. That's at FLCERT. If you have any additional information that you need, you can always go to our floridadisaster.org website /info. Governor, again, thank you very much for your leadership in this situation.
Great. Jared?
Yes, thank you, Governor, and good morning. As the Governor mentioned, toll suspensions are still in effect for listed facilities focused on the coastal areas. We are going to continue to monitor the situation and will potentially enact more as deemed appropriate. You can go to fdot.gov for more information on that. FDOT road and bridge contractors have suspended operations on active construction projects within the projected path of Hurricane Ian. These projects are performing activities such as lowering crane booms, high mast lighting, securing barges, clearing traffic control devices, and checking drainage systems. Contractors are also opening all travel lanes and removing non-critical barricades to aid in evacuations. For bridges in the potential impact area, once wind speeds increase beyond 40 miles per hour, we coordinate very closely with FHP and local law enforcement and stop traffic from crossing bridges for the safety of the traveling public. FHP will be closely monitoring wind speeds on critical bridges such as the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. FDOT is staging resources nearby to perform critical road and bridge inspections after the storm in order to resume bridge usage as soon as it is safe to do so. Typically, inspections are performed and we prioritize coastal bridges and move inland. For example, in the Tampa Bay area, Howard Franklin, Sunshine Skyway, Courtney Campbell, Gandy Boulevard, and Pinellas Bayway would be those priorities. Additional resources are being staged strategically in safe locations in close proximity to the projected path to allow for quick implementation following the passage of the storm. FDOT is activating specific emergency and pre-event contracts and also road clearance contracts to expedite roadway openings after the storm passes through. FDOT will also be closely coordinating with utility providers to coordinate post-storm debris operations in support of power restoration. We continue to coordinate very closely with FHP, Georgia DOT, Florida DEP, and the U.S. Coast Guard for other bridge and road closures and to facilitate evacuations and debris cleanup after the storm passes through. All of our seaports currently have adequate fuel supplies and are well positioned to quickly reinstate operations following the storm to keep fuel supplies moving. Seaports in the cone of influence have already begun suspending operations to prepare for impact and staging appropriate resources to safely restore operations after the storm. We're also very closely coordinating with our airports in the area of impact. For information on airport closures, please get with your local airports. As evacuations continue, FDOT has traffic management centers around the state that operate 24/7. We have teams monitoring traffic levels along critical corridors to ensure safety. We've also increased our resources in terms of FDOT road rangers and motorist assistance to aid in evacuations, and we will be closely monitoring traffic speeds, traffic volumes along the evacuation routes, and we'll also be considering the use of the shoulders when it is needed. As the governor mentioned, we typically look at operating speeds of around 40 to 45 miles per hour. We've already begun operations to make sure the shoulders are clear of debris and clean so that vehicles can safely use them. Florida's 511 travel information system is available for drivers to stay informed about roadway conditions during emergencies. These services includes traffic conditions, road and bridge closures, toll suspensions, and other specialized alerts. To use Florida's 511, visit the website at fl511.com or download the app on both Apple and Android devices. Again, Governor, thank you for your leadership.
Okay. So so that's what the NHC is going to have that at the 11 advisory.
That's what we're being advised.
Okay, so and we had mentioned, because the models overnight that were coming in were all arriving at Solutions in Sarasota area. The National Hurricane Center's 11 a.m. advisory will confirm that with a landfall in the southern part of Sarasota County. Now again, this thing is just getting over Cuba. I mean, there could be more wobbles, and so the idea that the eye is no longer projected to hit Tampa Bay directly does not mean that you will not have major impacts in Tampa Bay. Does not mean that you can't see a wobble going a different direction. I will say, just having watched these runs over the past 96 hours or so, you are seeing the models really push more east. And so if you have an impact into a place like Venice, that is going to be a lot of inundation, a lot of surge in places like Charlotte County, places like Lee County, of course Sarasota as well. But what that will also do is likely bring it to cut it across the state of Florida. And so there's different models on that, but a lot of them now have it cutting across and going out into the Atlantic Ocean. So if you're in some of those interior parts of the state of Florida, from kind of up I-4 almost, and some of those things, just anticipate. Now, it's not going to be a Category 3 hurricane by the time it gets to you, but anticipate interruptions, anticipate wind, anticipate a lot of rain. And of course, we have rivers and waterways all throughout the state of Florida, including the interior, that are in danger of overflowing under those circumstances. And so just continue to watch the weather wherever you are in the state of Florida. Heed the advice of your local officials, but this is definitely something that is getting closer and closer. And so act now to do what you need to do to protect yourself and your family. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, Governor, worst case scenario, and I think you may have seen Jeff Brandis make some calculations about the insurance impact that citizens could be, which covers 25% of Tampa Bay area, could be, paying out $10 billion. The total cost just for the Tampa Bay area could be $40 billion. Is there some contingency plan in place beyond what the legislature and you approved, to lower the hurricane catastrophe cap?
We'll address it. We'll address it. I mean, we have a CAT fund that's flush. We put another $2 billion into kind of an added layer of protection. I would say, though, we are looking at a lot of flood claims. I'm not saying there's not going to be wind damage. I mean, it's a hurricane, so you're likely to see that. But when you're talking about things like Tampa Bay, the danger and why Tampa Bay is so fragile in terms of these types of storms and why people have said that's the one place in Florida that could have the most damage is because that water's got nowhere to go in Tampa Bay. And so you end up with surge, you end up with flooding. In that Tampa Bay area, we have close to 1 million flood policies under the National Flood Insurance Program. We've got about 15,000 private policies, and so most of that is going to end up being an issue for that. Now, of course, there's more that I want to do in terms of the wind insurance, and that'll be something that we're going to address. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know, we've got to make sure folks are taken care of, and so we will do that, whatever we need to do.
On the nursing homes, I mean, how many nursing home residents have been evacuated across the state? And is there an update on how compliance is going? We're hearing about power outages with the ACA rule compliance.
So right now it's 100%. So the 100% are reporting generators on site, and we're happy about that. Kevin, do you want to talk about? I know they've done it in the Tampa Bay area.
Sure. Pinellas County mentioned yesterday that they are evacuating somewhere around the neighborhood of 90 hospital ALFs and nursing homes. We've got similar numbers and to the south of the Bay. Obviously, Manatee County doesn't have that many, but all of those counties are getting compliance with evacuation orders. And when and if we have challenges, obviously Secretary Marcella makes some phone calls and we get compliance. So we're getting 100% compliance right now out of the ALF medical nursing home industry. And again, they're heeding the evacuation orders. They're evacuating. But again, the good news story here, really good news story, is we have 100% compliance with the generator rule.
And Kevin will be. He will be moving, I think you already are in the process of surging more of the ambulances down to Southwest Florida. Obviously, we've had a lot staged in Tampa Bay, and there will still be support there. But as you look at the track shifting further south, there's going to be more needs there as a result. And so Kevin is doing that, and I think that's good. As you know, in southwest part of the state of Florida, I mean, we've got a lot of elderly residents, not just in ALFs, but certainly we've got a lot of those facilities in counties like Collier, Lee, and Charlotte. Yes, sir.
Maybe a broad question. Do you have a guesstimate on how many people are in these areas that are going to be impacted by the up to 10 feet of storm surge and we need to be evacuated? I mean, do you have a count of like maybe thousands, millions of people?
Well, there's under the current evacuation orders, which are probably Pasco down to Collier, would you say?
Well, we have not run the numbers on the Fort Myers. Just
okay, so but I mean, but it's over 2 million. Yeah, and so and again, this is not necessarily saying you have to evacuate to another state. It's not saying you have to go to Miami. It's not saying that all those counties have shelters within their counties. The instruction is you're in a vulnerable area to storm surge or flooding, evacuate to higher ground. And if you evacuate to higher ground in a structure that is sound, you're going to be fine. And that's something that we just want people to know. When they say evacuate, that doesn't mean keep traveling until you have no chance of being rained on or have no chance of having any. You don't need to do that. Obviously, it's a free country. People can get in the car and do what they want, but that's not what it means. The impacts as it gets into the state of Florida, if you are not in a low-lying area and you're in a structure that is sound, you're going to be okay when you do that. And so this is Charlie back in I guess 2004. That was like kind of a buzzsaw. It was a Category 4, a lot of wind damage, really destructive in terms of what it did in Southwest Florida. Of course, people thought it was going to hit Tampa, and then it shifted. Obviously, if you have a Cat 3, people say maybe it was. We were hoping it was gonna weaken before it hit landfall. The problem is the further east it's gone, the less time it has to weaken. Nevertheless, what this is really doing, because of the size of the storm, is it's kicking up a lot of surge. I mean, those seas, the Gulf is going to be very angry as this comes in, and you're going to see that happen. And so the danger to life and limb is really from that surge and from that flooding, more so than the wind. Obviously, if you're in a mobile home and you have 120 mile an hour winds, I mean, that's going to be a problem, and heed the evacuation orders accordingly. But we've got a lot of Floridians who are in low-lying areas, and when you have storm surge of this magnitude, that can absolutely be life-threatening. We want everyone to be safe. Of course, if there's need for search and rescue, we've got resources. The counties have great resources. The state, National Guard, other states are helping, and we will do that. But just keep in mind that when you're doing that, those first responders are put at risk by going into those situations. So if you can avoid that at the front end by getting to a safer position, that is obviously going to be good, not just for you, but it's also going to be good for the people that may be called upon to go into harm's way.
Can you give us an update on the fuel supply?
This may be a question for Secretary Perdue, but have y'all considered making all of the lanes eastbound out of Tampa?
So I'll let him amplify that, but basically that issue has been studied by the department over about 10 years or so, and what they have determined is that it's more efficient to just expand into the emergency lanes and the shoulders and open those up for more traffic rather than try to make everything going in one direction. I think part of the issue is we need to access it in the other direction to help people and to bring in supplies, but I'll let Jared talk more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're referring to would be what we call contraflow, and we have done many studies, and we actually have proven that using the shoulder for emergency evacuations is a successful way to do it. You do need the other side of the facility for continued access for first responders and life safety missions. So, yeah, so we have successful examples of that, and we'll be closely coordinating throughout to make sure traffic continues to flow.
And he's going to look. I mean, they will open those lanes once you have less than 40 miles per hour sustained traffic flow, and the places where that would happen would of course be I-75 north out of the Tampa Bay area or in Sarasota, but also I-75 going across Alligator Alley, and then of course I-4. Someone was showing some stuff about there's some traffic on I-4 last night, and so they're watching that. It has increased. Although I think most Floridians who are familiar with Central Florida know you could be between Tampa and Orlando on I-4 and run into traffic really at any hour of the day. But they are sensitive to that. They will open that up to be able to increase the flow. And basically, as soon as that under 40 happens, then they will do it. But by and large, we've seen an increase on the roads, but you still have flow, and that's monitored on a minute-by-minute basis.
Are there areas where there are shortages? Is everything
in terms of like
fuel supply?
Fuel supply, Kevin, you want to address
that? I know technically the ports fall under Secretary Perdue, but we did talk to the Ports Council Executive Director, and everything is topped off. Now, at 8 o'clock this morning, West Coast ports were closed by the U.S. Coast Guard, but the port is not closed. It's closed to sea traffic. It is not closed to the fuel racks. So we can still keep getting fuel from those tanks and get that back out into the market. And we're still doing that. That's happening right now at every port on the West Coast, but we are officially closed. But before they closed, they topped everything completely off.
And just, as people, of course, the fuel, keep that flowing, get the power back on. I mean, people are going to want to go back to their homes. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been evacuated in, say, Pinellas County. There's more evacuations all the way down the Gulf Coast. When the bridges reach a certain sustained wind, what is it, 40 miles an hour that FDOT will alert local law enforcement, and they will stop access to the bridge because it's not safe as you get above that. Once the storm passes, the bridges will be open, but they will be evaluated for integrity and safety, because you don't want, if there's something that happened, to put people over bridges that aren't safe. So if you're thinking about someplace like the Tampa Bay area, you have Courtney Campbell, you have Howard Franklin, Gandy, you have Sunshine Skyway. Those are going to be inspected. Jared has people ready to go. The Army Corps has people ready to go. We understand that's a priority, but we also want to make sure that it's safe. The extent that the storm goes more in the Venice area, you're looking at different bridges in and out of Charlotte and Lee County. So you will have, at some point, those will be suspended in terms of people being able to use those. And then once the storm passes, they are going to be evaluated for structural integrity as well. So really, from Southwest Florida up into the Tampa Bay area, we've got a lot of bridges getting in and out of these communities, and they're all going to be evaluated, and we want to make sure that they are, if they're safe and still sound, which we anticipate they will be. But this is a significant storm. Some of them that may be a little lower. There'll be water pushing up. So there's just a lot of factors. But that will happen. So just plan on, when the storm passes, there may be a short period of time where that is being evaluated, and that's just being done for people's safety. Yep.
Sort of a morbid question, but with the reality of this being a rainstorm and there being flooding and of course drownings and whatnot, I don't know if the state has given any estimate of how deadly this storm is going to be, given those sort of...
I think it's hard to say. I mean, I think that the people that, when your local emergency officials are instituting an order for evacuation, the purpose of that is to protect people's lives. And the more people that heed that, the less likely that you're going to see fatalities when you have major storm surge or flooding in those areas. I will say, and it's something that Kevin has also talked about and I've talked about a lot, in some of the recent storms across the country, you've had more fatalities after the storm hit than because of the storm directly. And that has a variety of different reasons. One of the things is misuse of generators inside people's homes. That exhaust has got to go outside your home. Do not put that inside. That will be, you could get poisoned and you could die. So we see that happens now in pretty much every storm. So we've put out videos, we've put out different guidance about using generators I mean, nobody wants to be without power. Generators can be a great thing to kind of keep a sense of normalcy as you're waiting for other things around you to get back to normal, but you got to use it properly. There's also people will go into some of the standing water that you see. If you have standing water, you could have an electrical cord or something that is in there, and you could get harmed in that way. Driving vehicles when you have a lot of standing water is very, very hazardous, and so we would caution people not to try to drive vehicles through flooded streets. So you see a lot of the things that happen after the storm that have unfortunately caused folks to pass away. So those are things that we're putting guidance out on, but on the front end of the storm, the surge, the flooding, making sure if you are in a vulnerable structure like a mobile home that you be able to evacuate to a safer structure is very, very important.
The General, if I may, given the severity of the flooding we expect, what role do you expect the Guard to play in the aftermath of the storm?
Really, it's we're a support role, whatever the Department of Emergency Management needs us to do. It could be everything from security to transportation. Aviation is a big part if we end up in search and rescue kind of scenarios. So, you know, we're kind of the Swiss Army knife of operations. We can be used for whatever the Department of Emergency Management needs us to do.
More assets. Can you be more specific about what type of assets maybe y'all are searching for?
Yeah, as we do our planning, it kind of changes every day. You know, yesterday we were looking at the potential even having to do air bridges into the peninsula of St. Petersburg, Clearwater. As the storm moves further south, we think that may not be quite the plan that we need to be looking at. So kind of changes day to day as we see the updates in the hurricane and where it's going to be and what kind of potential damages and missions it might introduce for our forces. So we're constantly reassessing some big things that we're looking for from out of state, additional aviation assets for HH-60s, CH-47s, heavy lift capability to be able to move supplies and people and equipment. Search and rescue equipment and supplies also a big part of that. So you know, it really depends. Could be security, depending on, you know, where we are and what the aftermath looks like as we go through the recovery stages. So we've got transportation's another big one, looking for high water vehicles as well as swift water vehicles if we end up with a flooding event where we're needing to get to folks who can't move by land. So really almost everything that you can imagine that the director might be needing some additional muscle on, we'll be providing it. Yeah.
This might be for Director Guthrie. We keep talking about the flooding and the surge, and it kind of reminds me of what happened with Katrina, where the damage and the threat was more flooding and surge, and, you know, in advance of that, they got like 80 to 90% of New Orleans evacuated and managed to avoid a lot of serious death, but there were still people on rooftops, people in cars. Yeah. Have you thought about that? Have you looked at Katrina as a potential model for what you need to do to respond here?
Absolutely. You know, history is past performance, and the best predictor of future performance is past performance. So we certainly look at all of those after action reports and take the best practices from them. And you know, that's one of the reasons that in the last question that was just answered by the general, we're beefing up aviation assets so we can actually go out and do that recon after the disaster happens. So if we have somebody in an island situation, or maybe even on a vehicle rooftop, or even God forbid an actual structure rooftop, these guys can help us locate that, and we can start moving ground assets into that situation. Or if need be, we call in the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard comes in and starts doing some type of aerial type rescue. So all of those things are true. But again, I want to reiterate what the governor just said. If people will heed evacuation orders, and it goes back to Eric's question, if they heed the evacuation order, I have a 100% guarantee that they will not die from storm surge if they heed the evacuation order. I have a 100% guarantee that they will not have to be rescued off a rooftop if they heed the evacuation order. Where we're at right now is execute your plan, start evacuating if you've been asked to evacuate.
So we're going to be continuing to work with our local partners. I do want to thank everybody up here at the Florida Department of Emergency Management, everyone involved with the EOC. This was something that we saw coming when it was just, I guess, a disturbance off the, coming in there, and we understood the potential, and so we've been working with all the local partners under a state of emergency, and I do really appreciate all the work that they've done. The one thing about Florida, we have to deal with a lot of these threats. It's just something that you do when you live in a kind of a tropical paradise. But we're for the strongest emergency management professionals in our counties anywhere in the country, and I think that they're doing a great job, and they'll continue to serve the people of their communities well as we weather this over the next many days. Thanks, everybody.
Hey there, folks. JB here with you live on Tracking the Tropics. That was Governor Ron DeSantis at the Tallahassee EOC, talking, of course, about Tampa Bay impacts, talking about Sarasota, we heard about Venice. We're going to talk about this for a second because when we had officials, including DeSantis, talking about a potential landfall to our south, closer to Venice than to Tampa Bay, that raised some eyebrows here, including my own, because the track right now from the National Hurricane Center has this, the eye of the storm going right over Tampa Bay. And while there isn't too much geographical distance between Tampa Bay and Sarasota, there is a significant distance between Tampa Bay and Venice as far as it relates to this storm. So we got on the phone as we're being joined here by Eric Stone, meteorologist here at WFLA, just arriving a moment ago. Hopefully you got some good rest, right?
Oh,
some
yeah,
good rest?
definitely.
Rested,
Yep.
ready to go. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we're ready.
Lee Spann, meteorologist here. She's on air right now with the Max Fender 8 weather team downstairs in the studio on TV. She made some phone calls. Right as DeSantis said that, called over to the National Weather Service, and they told Lee, we don't know where that information came from. So there appears to be an inconsistent sequence of messaging here, because we've got the National Hurricane Center with their forecast track, and we have the National Weather Service telling us that that's the track, but we're having somebody tell Governor DeSantis and his team to look more towards Venice than towards Tampa Bay. Eric, you've been studying the models all morning. What do you see? Do you see this more likely as Tampa Bay or Venice?
I see it more likely as right in between, in fact, maybe northern Sarasota County. If you look at the models, I'm not sure why they, relay that information. The GFS model does take Ian very close to the Venice area. The European model takes it pretty much the track you're seeing right there on the screen, right through Tampa Bay. There's a couple other models. The Canadian model, typically unreliable, but still a little bit to the west. The Navy model, a little bit to the west. Another model called the Icon that's slightly south of the bay, right around Sarasota, Manatee County. So I wouldn't be surprised if the cone does shift to the south, and that will be coming out in the next hour and 15 minutes or so, right around 11 o'clock or so. So let's see what the next cone will show. Now, again, there is a cold front that is just off to our north. The hurricane is going to interact with that cold front. The question is the hurricane going to win and push break through the cold front, which is what we are thinking, or is the cold front going to kind of push southward on the hurricane, forcing this to turn to the northeast? Right now, it's looking like the hurricane, or the cold front rather, it's the end of September. It's a very weak front. It looks like the hurricane being so powerful, so big in surface area and so strong will push through that front and again be closer to landfall in the Manatee County area, maybe northern Sarasota County. But there's nothing right now that could allow anyone to say, oh yeah, this is going to make landfall in Venice.
Could they be looking at model trends that suggest that the hook is going to be more profound and hook towards Venice?
I wouldn't say model trends. They could be looking at the GFS and say, oh wow, the GFS is further to the south now. It's looking like Ian's going to hit Venice. But again, that's one model, right? And the GFS has been so out to lunch.
The GFS is the American model. Maybe they are trusting the American model.
Maybe they were, but 3 days ago, the GFS was hitting New Orleans, while the Euro was very consistent on taking this storm in our direction. Of course, we were hoping the Euro was going to be the one that was out to lunch and wrong, but you know what? The Euro over the years has proved to be the most reliable.
So we've heard 3 different locations here, and I see our comment section. So let's go over. One of the officials said Venice, and we thought Venice. Oh, okay, that's a good ways to our south. It's a couple hour car ride. Governor DeSantis, I don't think he ever said Venice. He said more Sarasota County. I think he's more kind of correct here as far as Sarasota County seeing significant impacts of the storm. But a Venice landfall would mean, we're talking about significant impacts more towards Naples. So there's a big difference between a landfall in Tampa Bay versus Venice. But I think we're all in agreement as far as DeSantis goes. What he said specifically is that Sarasota County right now looks to be on the bad end of this, the bad side of this, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And, that radar that we just showed a frame ago actually shows the storm moving slightly east of north. If that's the case, I don't see it turning back to the north. And I wouldn't be surprised, again, if this thing does make landfall south of Pinellas and south of Hillsborough, somewhere Manatee and even into Sarasota County.
So, folks, here's what we're going to do with Eric and myself over the next 10 minutes. This is kind of our abbreviated morning edition of Tracking the Tropics. We have a full episode prepared for you coming your way at 11 because our questions will get answered at 11 in 1 hour and 5 minutes from now with this latest track update, probably the most significant track update yet. Every track update is going to be the most significant one. But this one is going to be potentially significant because we're starting to see the consensus in these models, and we're starting to see the narrowing of the forecast cone. And as the narrowing of the forecast cone gets closer to Tampa Bay or closer to the Gulf Coast side of Florida, we have a better idea as to where landfall is going to be. Making 11 a.m.'s update, yes, the most significant one yet. We are getting closer to more precise locations to where the storm could make landfall now that Cuba appears to be mostly they're not out of it yet. But is the worst of it over for Cuba?
Yeah, they're still dealing with powerful hurricane force wind and flooding and all that. But yeah, it's now that it's slowly emerging back into the open water. But now see that radar there? Notice how the last couple frames it goes satellite rather. It goes slightly east of north. And if you look at the 8 o'clock advisory, it's showing a due north movement, right? And so it's off. And that slight east movement that it's doing right now, it's not going to go back to the north. It's already started to move northeast, right, so to speak. So if that's the case, then I wouldn't be surprised again if the cone does shift a little bit further to the east and south in an hour. Again, right? So you're watching it move north, and right there it moves northeast. It's moving north and then northeast a little bit. See that?
I do.
Yeah.
And it takes it right up through, hey, look, Jacksonville, we've got a lot of commenters asking about Jacksonville. Jacksonville is going to see tropical storm force impacts from this storm at least for a short time, right? As the storm weakens and gradually, weakens to a tropical depression. But let's look at this one more time. I'm just going to talk about long-range impacts for just 1 second because we're really still hyper-focused on the Gulf Coast side of Florida. But as we follow this track, does Ian reemerge back into the Atlantic where it could gain a little bit more strength? No, it has it going right up the coast, right through South Carolina and Georgia.
Right. Some models did have this emerging into the Atlantic, strengthening a bit, and then hitting the Carolinas. Again, and you can see right there, look at the model plots. Some of those do take Ian out into the Atlantic, where, of course, it could re-strengthen. The Gulf Stream is very warm, and, although there's still a lot of wind shear in that area, so if it did strengthen, it wouldn't strengthen all that much. But again, the main concern is where is this track going to go within the next hour? And I would bet that it's going to move a little bit south and a little bit east.
Let's start to get to your questions and comments, folks. We're going to do a 10-minute Q&A. Then we have to take a brief break to prepare for the 11 o'clock update, which we will be live for. It will be significant. Any movement, any speed up, slow down in the track, any intensification that we can note, especially considering that, as you can see, the eye right now of Hurricane Ian is potentially moving off of the northern coast of Cuba, where it will officially be completely over Gulf Coast waters. Gulf of Mexico waters. Let's start with our comment section. Again, how this works, use a hashtag Hey Eric or JB to ask a question in the YouTube Live or Facebook Live comment section. Christopher G, hashtag Hey JB, hashtag Hey Eric. What should Port Richey area see from this storm? Hurricane force or tropical? The latest models, the latest track, things are starting to improve for Pasco and Hernando counties, correct, Eric?
Correct, but again, we are not out of the woods by any means.
Yep.
Now, this storm is going to slow up, right? Look, between 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoon and 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon, the storm doesn't move all that much, right? So it doesn't matter which county you live in, whether it's Citrus, Hernando, Pasco, you're going to get a lot of rain. And given the current track in Pasco County, you're going to see hurricane force wind. And at 11 o'clock, I'm going to show you a graphic that will show what we call the radii, right? The circle around the center of the storm of people and counties that are expecting hurricane force wind given the current track. So again, Port Richey, you're not out of the woods at all, even if this moves slightly to the south.
Let's go to this comment from Candy, hashtag Hey JB. How will we know that the Courtney Campbell will close in advance? We'll of course get a notice here, WFLA, and then the Courtney Campbell Causeway is obviously an important roadway right through the heart of Tampa Bay, right through Pinellas and Hillsborough counties. We will get a heads up. We will pass that along to you. But the closer the storm gets, you shouldn't be on the roads at all. Courtney Campbell Causeway, Sunshine Bridge, the Skyway Bridge. Regardless, travel right now should be reserved for really just essential travel, getting to where you need to go. We need to keep our roads clear as much as possible, Eric. I mean, traffic is something that we've talked about. It's so important.
I think there's a policy where once the winds reach tropical storm status, you're not allowed to go over the bridges, or they close the bridges. Have you heard anything? I know in Southwest Florida that's the case. I'm assuming it's very similar up here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you were asking specifically about what?
About once the wind gets to tropical storm force status,
yep.
I believe they close the bridges down. You're not allowed to travel over the bridges.
Yeah, and they might close it even before tropical storm force winds.
Right.
They might. They're trying to really hammer home this message that you should only be on the roads if you really need to be on the roads at this point in time. Tuesday is going to be the day where we start to see things really kind of clamp down, shut down. As far as I want to make this clear one more time about Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis and his team were given notice about this model data that shows somewhere as far south as Venice. Now, DeSantis himself didn't say Venice. He said Sarasota. But again, one of the officials mentioned Venice as a potential landfall location, and the track data just doesn't show that at this time. Here's my thing. my thing. Doesn't matter who is giving this information from the EOC, whether it's the governor or a team member. If they have access to that information, if they have access to those models, then we would like to see those. We would like to see those models. That model data should be publicly accessible to all. So hopefully we get some more clarity in the 11 o'clock update that's coming your way in just a little bit, because I want to see what this data is that they are referring to.
Take a look at that.
Yeah.
See those plots, okay? The majority of the plots are south of Tampa. They are right around the Manatee County area. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Those spaghetti plots. So, again, this leads me to believe that they will shift the cone south. I can't say, nobody can say, oh, it's going to hit Venice in 35 hours from now. But the trends do show, again, Ian, slightly to the south and slightly to the east, possibly Manatee, northern Sarasota counties. But again, time will tell. It's still a day and a half before landfall. But you can see the consensus or the average of those models you're seeing on the screen right now are just to the south of Tampa in Manatee and northern Sarasota counties.
Yeah, and look, between Sarasota and Venice is entirely possible. We're just trying to get some clarity on the models. And, you know, these track updates coming out every 6 hours?
Correct. 5 and 11.
I'd like to see track updates. I mean, look, it would be great to have track updates on the intermediary advisories as well, on those 8 and 2 o'clock hours as well. But right now, 5 a.m., 5 p.m., 11 a.m., 11 p.m. are when we're getting track updates. So that is now officially less than an hour away. Hopefully that makes sense as far as my our observations and our communication with Governor DeSantis and his team, because it was his team member that said Venice, and we just thought that was a little bit peculiar because all of the focus has been on the Tampa Bay area, and Sarasota is included within the Tampa Bay area. Let's go to the Slayer 150 on YouTube Live. He says this, hashtag HeyJB, how bad will Clearwater, Florida get it? That's over, of course, in Pinellas County.
Well, if it takes a more southerly track, the good news is the winds around Ian will pull water away from the coast in Pinellas County rather than push water into Pinellas County. So again, the track means everything. The further south Ian goes, the less storm surge we're going to see. We're going to see water being pulled out of the bay and pulled away from Pinellas County and northern counties, right, along the coast. But if it tracks into the Bay Area or if it tracks just to the west of Tampa, it's going to be a totally different story with 6 to 12-foot storm surge in Pinellas County, Clearwater Beach, Clearwater. Again, it all depends on the track. So the further south the track goes, the better off we are in Pinellas and even in Hillsborough counties.
Yeah, but Yellow Submarine wants to know what will happen if the hurricane moves downwards during the day. So if it, I believe what that means is moving south. You were talking. You had a great explanation last night talking about the wind shear aspect. The further, let me get this right. The further downward, as the commenter put it, that this track goes, the more likely it is it will make landfall as a major hurricane. Correct?
That's right. Because the front that it's interacting with, the wind shear associated with the cold front, that right now is just north of Tampa, that is what's going to weaken Ian quickly, right? So if it takes a hard right turn, it's not going to interact with that front. It's not going to interact with that wind shear. So it's going to stay strong. And you can see once it gets close to Tampa, right there, a 3, and then all of a sudden it goes to a 1. Yes, over land. But yesterday it wasn't showing the cone over land, and it was still going from a Category 3 to a Category 1 over water because of that wind shear. If it does move southward, it's going to stay at least a Category 3, and we are expecting this to become a Category 4 storm later on today.
Yeah, upgraded to the next category. So if it were a Pasco-Hernando kind of landfall, we're talking maybe Cat 2, Cat 1, right, because of that wind shear potentially. If you're talking about Sarasota, Venice, that area, we're talking about a major hurricane making landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast. That's kind of where we are right now, folks, with these models. Let's go to Susie's been very patient. Let's go to Susie. Your meteorologist Q&A is powered by Handyman Roofing, and she asks, southeastern Polk County, that's, getting closer to Orlando.
Yeah, that's right. I wouldn't say hurricane force wind in southeastern Polk, Indian Lake area. I would say tropical storm force wind, but a lot of rain. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 4 to 8 inches of rain. Again, it all depends on the track. If this thing does go through Sarasota County toward Venice, look at those model plots. It takes it right into northwest Polk County, okay? So, again, you wouldn't see hurricane force wind in southeast Polk, but you would have tropical storm force wind regardless. I think that's going to happen regardless if this makes landfall in Pasco County or it makes landfall in Sarasota County. But, again, you have to deal with the heavy rain and isolated tornadoes. There's already a tornado watch, which I'll show you later on, from Charlotte County in southwest Florida southward. Most of these south counties in Florida are under a tornado watch, and as the storm moves further to the north, all of our counties, from Polk County inland all the way to Citrus, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Sarasota, man, every county is going to be under a tornado watch because of the rain bands that come in and the tornadoes that they produce.
Let's get to one more question before we wrap up our Q&A for now, folks, and then I have something to remind our audience of here in just a second. Park zone Corsair tips. Okay. Hashtag HJB. How does this hurricane compare to Irma? Is it more dangerous? Of course, Irma was that Category 5 storm you and I were talking about last night that made that turn. How does this compare to Irma in your words?
In the Tampa area, Irma was much less devastating, right? It came from the east. It came around Miami, the Keys, and then it moved up north, right into the Naples, Marco Island area, and it moved straight north. But it was inland, right? So the storm was already weakening. Once it made landfall in Naples, it was weakening as it went north through Fort Myers, north through Sarasota, and through Tampa, right? And Tampa being on the west side of the storm, again, water was being pulled away from the bay. We didn't have the storm surge. This is much worse for us because, especially if it stays to the west and makes landfall in Tampa, we are going to have heavy storm surge and, again, much windier conditions compared to Irma. Now, of course, if you compare this in Tampa versus Irma in Naples, right, then it's pretty close because you had a major hurricane in Naples with Irma. We've got a major hurricane possibly in Tampa with Ian, right? But again, if you're comparing Tampa conditions from Irma to Ian, Ian is going to be a lot worse.
Meteorologist Eric Stone, we will let him get back to it, folks. Again, the very latest for you on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Eric, I'm going to stay with our audience live a little bit longer. I'll let you get back to forecasting as we anticipate this update coming in just a little bit. Eric will be back with us, folks, shortly. I have several reminders for our audience, and it first begins with I'm writing down some notes. It first begins with the links in our YouTube description, okay? We've got several links in our YouTube description that are very important, including evacuation zone information, including sandbag information. There's going to be supply updates, road updates, links in our YouTube description that will take you over to WFLA.com and Tracking the Tropics TV. When we get questions that are really that are so easily accessible in a written form, something that's super specific about a specific roadway, we're going to just try to direct you to our website because the most updated information is there, and it's easier for you to access that information just by clicking on the link and going over to our website rather than us having to dwell on it for an extended period of time when we should really be focusing, obviously, on the computer model. So some of the more granular information that you're looking for, not to say that we're not going to answer those questions, we will. That information is going to be on WFLA.com and on trackingthetropics.tv. You can also download the WFLA app. That's thing number one. Two more. Number two, Max Defender 8 radar. When are we going to... Eric just left the room. He's going to use the restroom. Max Defender 8 is the most advanced weather radar in Florida. And it's going to be extraordinarily important as we track this system close to Tampa Bay. We can really get local, hyper local, with impacts as the storm reaches Tampa Bay. Max Defender 8 is right here in the Tampa Bay area. It is constantly scanning our skies for weather models and weather data. And as the system gets closer, we have that radar can tap into all of that weather information and bring us potentially life-saving information. WFLA, again, has Max Defender 8. We're very lucky to have it, very fortunate to have it, and we're going to be sharing that model data with you in the coming hours and in the coming days. It's going to be fascinating to see exactly what this system looks like when it really does become within a well-defined range of Max Defender 8, and we can really start to look at some local impacts on the ground here in Tampa Bay. That is number 2. Number 3, I mentioned this at the beginning of our stream right when I got in this morning. I'm well rested. I got some good night. Eric and I both did. We got a really good night's sleep. Probably the last opportunity for us to get a really good night's sleep here at WFLA for the next week or so. Because in addition to bringing you storm coverage, we're also going to be bringing you aftermath coverage. And aftermath coverage is just as important, if not more important, because people are going to be looking for supplies. They're going to be looking to know when roadways are open back up. They're going to be looking for power outage information, and we are going to be here with you live throughout that entire process and be a resource for you in the palm of your hand. This is so important because so many people are going to lose power, lose access to their normal television coverage, and we'll be here with you on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and our apps and our websites to be able to provide you that information over cellular. And we really hope, and we can already assure you that Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, they're already taking major precautions and taking steps to protect the cellular infrastructure within our area so that you can access this potentially life-saving information when Hurricane Ian does in fact arrive. And that brings me to this point that I'm trying to make. We are trying to take this model data. We are trying to take this live stream and going live on TikTok. There is an audience on TikTok that we are trying to access, and TikTok. So I'm trying to go live on my TikTok page, my WFLA-JB TikTok page. I'm going to bring it up here, and I'm not on TikTok, folks. That's not really my thing. Just being honest with our audience, I'm not on TikTok all that often, but I know that the TikTok audience there and viewership there is just significant. It is a younger demographic, and Hurricane Ian doesn't care what platform you're on or how old or young you are. We need to be able to go live on TikTok, and I can't do so. And TikTok won't let me go live until I have 1,000 followers. And I believe me, if I wanted thousands of followers, I'd be posting videos of me dancing on TikTok for you. Something, believe me, you do not want to see. I just want to be able to help people. And I can't help people by going live on TikTok until apparently TikTok is telling me that I have 1,000 followers. And I get why they do that. I think that's kind of silly. I wish that they would just allow me to go live so that we can take this live stream and just share it with people on TikTok so it's there available to them as a resource. But right now, that's not happening. So I got to get over the 1,000 count threshold, follower count threshold. I'll tell you exactly with what we're at right now. It's at WFLA-JB. I'll put it here in the YouTube Live comment section. You don't have to, folks. And I know that, believe me, if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably like, oh, I'm on YouTube. Why do I need TikTok? Oh, believe me, that's exactly the point. However, there are people who only get their news from TikTok, and they've deleted every other social media app on their phone, and they just watch stuff on TikTok. So if that's the case, they need to be able to get potentially life-saving information as well, and we're just trying to help those people. So what I will do, I don't have a single video yet. Goes to show how little I focus on TikTok. I don't have one video yet on my TikTok page, but I would like to be able to go live on TikTok so that we can share Max Defender 8 data. So I just put it in the YouTube description, or excuse me, the comment section at WFLA-JB. Hopefully I get some followers. Hopefully we get above that 1,000 threshold, and then the live button pops up and we can actually go live on TikTok. It would be great to be able to go live in the 11 a.m. update. I don't know if I'll be able to get it, kind of set up by then, but fingers crossed. So here's what happens from here, folks. We are taking a break, and it's a brief break. It's only going to be about 40 or so minutes, and we are back with you live to break down this 11 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. All the new model data will be refreshed. We'll get, of course, a new track. We'll get an updated, max wind speed. We'll get an updated movement speed. How quick is the storm going? Is it speeding up? Is it slowing down? Is it hooking more east? Is it trending more west? All of these questions will be answered with the latest model data that we get in about, 45 44 minutes from right now. So we're going to be going into a slate with repeating graphics with some music playing for the next 40 or so minutes. But come back or hang out with us. You can stay if you'd like in the YouTube comment section, but stay with us, and we will be back here with you live, Eric and myself, to break down the 11 a.m. update when it comes down from the National Hurricane Center at the top of the hour. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back on Tracking the Tropics, powered by Handyman Roofing. And again, we will be answering your Facebook Live and YouTube Live comments out of the comment section here coming up at 11 a.m.